So when I got up this morning, I did what I do most mornings, and that's get breakfast ready for my daughters. And part of that breakfast is a glass of milk. And generally, I feel really good about that, right? It's nutritious, it's wholesome. She likes drinking it. As a veterinarian, I think a lot about where milk comes from. My daughter, on the other hand, does not. She just mostly wonders why I'm taking her picture at that point. When I went to the grocery store to purchase the milk, it wasn't a financially stressful experience, right? Milk is really affordable, and that's a really good thing. It's for the masses. It's not a luxury item. So in this country, we're really fortunate that we have this very nutritious product and an abundance of that particular product. But as agriculture has changed and we've met the demand for milk, and as people have become more and more disconnected from their food supply, there's a lot of concerns about how this milk is produced. And some of those concerns are legitimate. So some consumers might have this image in their mind when they see milk on the shelf, that we have this abundance of milk because we pump them full of antibiotics, and then we make them produce as much milk as possible. We should be concerned about antibiotic use in agriculture, but we should not overreact. That consumer concern has led to different marketing strategies for organic or antibiotic-free products. For instance, for Jones Creek beef, they advertise their products as never ever treated with antibiotics. Never is not good enough. It's never ever treated with antibiotics. So when I see this in the grocery store, I cringe a little bit because I'm a veterinarian. And I cringe because I see calves like this. So this calf, we're going to call her Rosie. Rosie the calf is about 10 days old. She's a neonate. As neonates are, they're very susceptible to bacterial infections. She has gastroenteritis, and she has a fever, and she's dehydrated. For this calf, antibiotics can be life-saving. Withholding antibiotics from this calf is life-threatening. So this decision on whether or not to treat that calf with antibiotics has impacts both for public health and for animal health and welfare. And that's what we're focused on, is understanding this decision to treat this particular calf. So as I had mentioned, we should be concerned about antibiotic use in agriculture. It can have an impact on human health. Antibiotics are used on dairy farms in a variety of ways. One of the ways that I'm going to focus on is the individual treatment of calves for bacterial diseases. We focus on that because these antibiotics likely have an outsized impact on public health. And they have an impact on public health because those antibiotics are the same antibiotics that are used to treat similar human infections. So if that calf, Rosie, was treated with one of these two antibiotics, she would have more antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and that's really important. That's important because those antibiotic-resistant bacteria could be transmitted to your family. They could be transmitted classically. We think about foodborne transmission. In other words, the products from those animals that go to slaughter become contaminated with those antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Those contaminate the hamburger, your family consumes it, and then they have that antibiotic-resistant bacteria and could become infected. But there's other ways to think about how those resistant bacteria might get to people. So for instance, some animals on farms like to mingle with the cattle during the day and then go home and sleep in their owner's bed at night. So that's a really direct route of transmission. Another way is that wildlife might pick up antibiotic-resistant bacteria in the environment of the farm and then distribute them nice and evenly over agricultural fields. So there's many ways that antibiotic-resistant bacteria can get to humans, and overall we want less antibiotic use on farms. We want less antibiotic use on farms. And so that gets back to this decision to treat. So there's the animal health and welfare aspect. We want to make sure that those animals get the antibiotics when they need them, but we also want to mitigate the impact on public health. So this decision to treat is very critical. And we've put this responsibility for these two critical issues of animal health and welfare and the impact on public health on the shoulders of farm workers. The farm workers are the ones on the farm that make these decisions on a routine basis. Veterinarians are very much a part of the process. They provide protocols, they provide training, but they can't be at every farm every day. So we have this obligation to support this decision that farm workers have to make. For this individual, that impact on animal health and welfare is very tangible. This guy is going to walk past that calf every day for the next few days, and he's going to see that impact, that potential impact on animal health and welfare. What's a little bit less tangible for this individual is the impact on public health. It's less tangible, it's more distant, it may happen, it may not happen, right? So it's very difficult to motivate individuals to withhold antibiotics from calves that they think that need antibiotics. This is what we're up against. As veterinarians, we have obligations to both animal health and public health. In fact, when we graduate from vet school, we explicitly state that we swear to protect public health and protect animal health. So this decision is at the intersection of these two really important issues. So this is the questions my lab is addressing. In the past, we did a survey, and we surveyed both organic and conventional producers, and we gave them case descriptions of cases of diarrhea in calves of varying severity. So case 1 was the least severe, and case 4 was the most severe. And we asked them, would you normally treat with antibiotics, trying to understand this decision a little bit better. The first 2 cases that we presented to them were cases where most veterinarians would agree that antibiotics are not indicated. And the second 2 cases were cases where most veterinarians would agree that antibiotics are indicated. So we gave these questions to conventional producers and found that the proportion of producers that said they would normally treat with antibiotics increased as the case severity increased. What's interesting, though, is that 40% of producers said that they would treat with antibiotics when most veterinarians said they would not treat with antibiotics. So clearly there's this opportunity to reduce antibiotic use without impacting animal health. We gave this same survey to organic producers. For organic producers, even for the most severe case that we presented to them, only 5% said that they would normally treat with antibiotics. So here, this is a clear opportunity to improve animal welfare. So we want to improve the accuracy of the decision-making for both organic and conventional producers. In that same survey, we asked the conventional and organic producers this question: do you agree or disagree with this statement that antibiotic use in agriculture leads to bacterial infections in people that are more difficult to treat? You're probably formulating your opinion in your head right now. So for conventional producers, most of them disagreed with this statement. They disagreed that the antibiotic use on their farm leads to bacterial infections in people. This probably impacts their antibiotic use practices. Organic producers, the complete opposite. Most of them agreed with this statement. They agreed that antibiotic use has a large public health impact. This also probably influences their antibiotic use practices. So those attitudes on conventional and organic producers are probably influencers of antibiotic use practices. So what we want to do is understand this decision to treat. We want to motivate them to do something different. So we're working with a social scientist, and we're implementing surveys across a broader set of dairy farms with a broader set of diseases that include the most common reasons for antibiotic use. And because most farm workers, most calf caretakers have iPhones or Androids, we can use vignettes of videos and photos and get really accurate understanding of how they use antibiotics and when and how they decide to use antibiotics. Based on the content of those surveys, we're going to design educational interventions for the most high priority knowledge gaps or attitudes that would impact antibiotic use. We're going to randomize farms to enroll them to either receive the educational intervention or not, and then we're going to measure the impact quantitatively on antibiotic use and the prevalence of antibiotic-resistant bacteria on those particular farms. So just to wrap that up, everybody wants less antibiotic use, but we should also want compassionate antibiotic use. And so if we can improve systematically the knowledge of the caretakers for these animals that have to make these decisions on a routine basis, we can meet both our obligations to animal health and public health. Thank you.